It's been far too long since I've been out on the bike, so today I'm heading to a remote corner of Northumberland with my good friend Pete to spend a couple of days bikepacking. We'll be cycling through Kielder Forest, across the border towards Newcastleton and eventually onto Kershope Forest, where we'll stay at a bothy at Kershopehead. We'll each be carrying the food and equipment we need to be able to eat, sleep and stay warm in bags attached to our bikes. Our journey begins at Kielder Village, where we join the Lakeside Way and make our way around Kielder Reservoir to Matthews Lane. Here we join a forest track called Bloody Bush Road and move west into the forest and towards Scotland. Despite our good intentions, a late start to the day means that we only make it a few kilometres down the trail before the light abandons us, so most of our journey is going to be made in the dark. Long after the sun has set, we arrive at Kershope Burn, a river that marks the border between England and Scotland. From here, we ride southwest, following the noise of the water as it tumbles over rocks and weirs in the dark, only a few metres away from us. We've been navigating with an Ordnance Survey Explorer map and can see that a few kilometres downstream there is another forest road on the opposite bank. This opens up the possibility that we could ford the river and take a shortcut that would save us a distance of 9 kilometres. Periodically we stop and scan the far bank for signs of the road, but the darkness seems to want it for itself. This lack of certainty, coupled with the volume of water in the burn, means that we have no choice but to follow the river to the next bridge, several kilometres away. After we cross, we follow an undulating road up into the forest and slowly away from the river. A little over 4 kilometres from the bridge, we roll up at the bothy, Kershopehead, to find it abandoned and in darkness. That looks empty. Bothies like this one provide refuge in remote areas for those who want or need to be in the outdoors. They're simple shelters with few facilities, but they're great places to visit. Currently, the Mountain Bothies Association maintains 7 of these buildings in or close to Kielder Forest. It's certainly possible to spend days, if not weeks, travelling between them, providing you can carry enough food to keep you going. Every bothy that I visited has had a stove or fireplace, although not all have a source of fuel nearby. There's no running water here either, so washing and cooking can come with their own complications. Before we settle in for the night, we have a few jobs to do. When you leave a bothy, it's courteous to leave a little kindling and firewood ready for the next occupant. This means that they can get a fire going in a hurry if they're soaking wet and freezing cold, which might just be a lifesaver. There is firewood here, but it's not enough to see us through the night, so we'll need to gather more. Before we do that though, we've been riding for hours and hot food is a priority. If we don't get some calories, we're in danger of running out of steam and the important jobs might not get done. Whilst the food is heating through, it makes sense to unpack our sleeping bags and make sure that they're ready to use. That way, even if we don't get a fire going, we still have a way to keep warm. Thankfully though, there are sleeping platforms in this bothy, and that means we can sleep up away from the cold stone floor. Yes, yes, yes. With a hot meal inside us and warm bedding ready and waiting, we can get on with the important job of building a fire. Pete concentrates on splitting logs in the woodshed next door, whilst I split the kindling which will help to get a blaze underway. Once the fire's going, I can concentrate on drinking just enough whiskey to make me forget to turn the camera back on again. It's morning already. I've avoided getting up for as long as I can, but nature is calling. I know that some bothies now have composting toilets, but I haven't visited one yet that does. However, I can tell you that every bothy that I have been to has got a spade. The etiquette is simple. Walk an appropriate distance from the bothy, dig a hole and make a deposit. That little green dry bag that I'm carrying is what I affectionately refer to as a shit kit, and it's a luxury not to be without. As bothies go, Kershopehead is quite sizable. There are 3 rooms over 2 floors, meaning there's plenty of space to go around, plus there's a woodshed. This is the room that Pete slept in last night. Whilst there's only one platform up here, there is a lot of floor space, meaning Kershopehead is a good choice during peak times or if you're part of a larger group. Yesterday's ride in took longer than anticipated, and we really need to be making tracks if we're going to get back to the car before dark. We've both had a light breakfast, however, we still need to stock up on water, pack and clean up after ourselves. But it shouldn't be too long before we're on our way.
Kill the water.
It certainly is. Possibly to an early grave. It's been a long time since I've been out on the bike regularly, and I know that riding on consecutive days like this is going to be a little rough to begin with. Last night, as we pedalled up the hill to the Bothy, my legs were on fire, and I know that I'm about to pick up where I left off. Oh, can you hear my legs sobbing? I know what's about to happen. Fortunately, it doesn't take long for the aches and the stiffness to subside once we're back on the bikes. The initial climb from the Bothy doesn't last long, and we're soon freewheeling on smooth, firm forest roads. We're following much the same route as we did yesterday, but today we should have gravity on our side. When we started at Kielder village, we were around 200 metres above sea level. Following Bloody Bush Road towards the border gradually took us to around 350 metres above sea level, but we lost that elevation pretty quickly as we followed Kershope Burn to the bridge and into Kershope Forest, which took us back down to 170 metres. From the bridge we had to gain another 100 metres or so to make it to the Bothy. Right now we're losing that height pretty quickly, but once we cross the river we're going to be climbing for a little over 7 kilometres. Shortly after we cross back over the border into England, the terrain will change and the remainder of the route is largely going to be downhill, all the way back to Kielder Reservoir. It doesn't take long before we're back at the river where my optimism for the return leg quickly vanishes. As we leave Kershope Forest and enter Newcastleton Forest, the road changes. It feels new and looks as though it's been recently resurfaced. We did notice this last night on the way here, but now we're pedalling up an incline, the loose crust feels soft and maintaining speed becomes more tiring. It's now late December and the temperatures are only a little way above freezing. It's important to take on calories, and this stop is a good opportunity to do just that. But the longer we spend stationary, the colder we become. Whilst it's nice to take a break, we really need to keep moving. Beyond the bridge is a short but very steep climb that leads up to Andrews Knowe. This part of our route follows the cross-border trail. It's a connection that links Kielder's mountain bike trails with the Seven Stains trails at Newcastleton. I've already visited Newcastleton and uploaded a video to this channel. If you'd like to check it out, there's a link at the top of the screen now, and there'll be another one at the end of the video too. From here, our journey should become a lot easier. It's the highest point of the route and the trail is changing to a lengthy, moderate descent. You can see on the left that a large area of the forest has been felled. This isn't really a bad thing because the forest is managed sustainably. What is important to remember though is that large trucks and heavy plant operate on these roads. Travelling almost silently at speed can lead to trouble, so it pays to be extra careful when travelling in places like this. After all, we're a very long way from a hospital. Last night, in the dark, we stopped countless times to check our map and make sure we were on the right path. Today, in good light, navigating the return leg is much easier. We've had the map out a couple of times, but only to estimate distances, not direction of travel. As UK wilderness goes, Kielder is quite substantial. Now, we're on well-used forest roads, which are hard and fast, and that means we're making great time. Reaching the Bothy yesterday took between 3 and 4 hours, which was a lot longer than either one of us had anticipated. Before we left, we estimated that we'd be on the bikes for between 2 and 2.5 hours. Had our route been flat, and had we made fewer stops to check the map, that probably wouldn't have been too far from the mark. The journey back, on the other hand, is now flying. Little more than an hour and a half in, and we're already back at the Lakeside Way at Matthews Lane. Having lost a bit of elevation and found ourselves amongst the trees, it doesn't seem nearly as cold. From here it's only a few kilometres back to the car and it's pretty easy going. I know that people tend to become less focused towards the end of a journey when they're close to home and they turn their thoughts towards the prize, but that's not where I'm at. I know this trip is drawing to a close, but the real prize is the adventure that we're leaving behind. Being confident and setting out to take on small challenges like this is what helps you to develop, and doing it with friends is what helps you to develop deeper, stronger bonds. Has the last couple of days been about fast-paced, adrenaline-fueled riding? No, it's been about setting off, out into the wilderness, sharing whiskey and having each other's backs, and we've both nailed it. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you do, and you click the bell icon, you'll be amongst the first to know about new Meant for Descent content. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you'd give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.